Here are 12 Spanish class field trip ideas you can use to take your students out into the real world, practicing their language skills. Hi, if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley, aka Senorita Spanish, and I just want to make sure that you know that links to everything that I mentioned are going to be down in the description box below. Without further ado, here are 12 Spanish class field trip ideas. The first one for you is to watch for local exhibits for culture, music, art. Sometimes there are like traveling exhibits that will come into your town. So keep an eye out, follow the museums that are in your town, follow the community groups in your town, and see what events they are putting on that would apply to what your students are learning about or have learned about or are going to learn about, because if they're traveling exhibits, you just got to take advantage of them while they're there. Sometimes they're not local or there's not a lot of local options, but virtual trips are an option too. Second, go to a restaurant with cuisine from a Spanish-speaking country. There are lots of good restaurants out there. I know my town is full of some of my favorite delicious options. If you can, ahead of time, call or contact the manager or whoever is going to be there that day and just say, hey, I'm bringing this group of Spanish students in. Do you have anyone on your staff who would be willing to practice with my students, or who, maybe would be patient with them, that kind of thing. Sometimes they're open to you bringing your students in and them doing the whole exchange in Spanish. It's a great way for them to get some practice and to work on their Spanish skills in that real life situation. Field trip idea number 3 are local theater productions. Keep an eye out on colleges. Might be a Spanish speaking theater class that might be putting something on. Really make those connections and build those relationships with people in your community so you can know, hey, this would be a great option to take my students to. Thanks for letting me know about this. Develop those relationships so that they know that your class is interested in having those experiences. Quick note in case you were feeling like, I don't have a college in my town, we don't have that many restaurants, and we certainly don't have a museum. Don't worry, I have some ideas for smaller towns or just towns that don't have as many of those kinds of things coming and passing through. So hold on, I've got more ideas for you. Idea number 4 are Hispanic dance troupes, which again, this is one of those things that kind of comes through your town and might leave again. Option number 5 is kind of an in-house field trip, and it works really well because it's a little bit less cost prohibitive. You don't have to get transportation or anything like that. You just have to work with your neighbor down the hall. So if you have a fax class or a cooking class in your building, take a field trip down to their room and make a recipe with your students. Option number 6, I kind of alluded to this earlier, is to work with the local universities, especially their Spanish club. Sometimes their Spanish club is looking for things to do as well with their members. So if you find out who is in charge of the local university Spanish club and build those relationships. Our Spanish club used to do a full day of reading Don Quixote. We would just all take turns, like it was like the full day. Everybody would sign up for different time slots and then we would just keep reading through it. So that would be kind of fun to have your high school students just come and listen and hang out for a little while. Idea number 7 is to go to or host the Flamenco Ballet. And I have a link for you for this. This is a troupe that you can invite to come in or that you can find events near you and you can go to. Option number 8 is to take them downtown to practice their Spanish vocabulary while you're doing your city unit. I think it would be really fun to do this like a la Sarah Breckley walk talk. If you've seen her do that, she basically talks about it like a picture talk on the go, and the picture is the world. So you could walk around downtown with your students. Parkour! And just, picture when you're in a big city and you're doing like a walking tour like that, but in Spanish. Okay, I know this one is not gonna be for everybody, but if you are lucky enough to have a Spanish-speaking country's embassy in your town, go. Contact them, say, hey, I am a Spanish teacher in, this city, or even if it's like close enough to you to go, you might have to take a little road trip, and just see if they're willing to welcome you in. They might give you a tour, they might talk to you a little bit about their country. It'll kind of depend on what they have available for that day, but you could them and set something up for a fun field trip for your students. Okay, number 10 is kind of like taking them downtown, but instead you're going to take them to a grocery store. Even better if you have a Hispanic foods store in your community owned and operated by somebody from the Spanish-speaking community. I know in my town we have a restaurant, grocery store, Mercado Combo, which is kind of fun. So you can go and eat there, but you can also do your shopping there. So like what I was talking about with taking them downtown, you can take them and just practice your vocabulary. You could have them do a scavenger hunt where they're trying to find certain foods or certain vocabulary words, or you could give them a shopping list of things to find. there are lots of different options, but make sure you contact that store owner so you can get something set up. Option number 11 is to visit a Hispanic food truck or bring one to you. My friend Courtney has a blog post detailing how she plans and invites in a food truck to come to their school during the lunch hour, and her students can order food from the food truck while it's there. Okay, and number 12 is to design a unit around something that you have in your town. Again, we're going to talk about that. End that unit with a visit to that place. I know that's really pretty vague, but it's going to depend on what you have available. So let's talk about the specifics in your town. If you are in a smaller town or just a city that doesn't have a lot of these opportunities. Listen, I'm from North Dakota. I get the small town thing. I really do. Okay, even though I'm from the biggest city in North Dakota. But anyways, I get that not every place has all of these options that I mentioned. So I wanted to make sure I addressed a few options for those who might be going, okay, none of those would work for my students, except for maybe the downtown one, except for we don't have a downtown. So let's talk about some options for a smaller town or just a city with different opportunities. So the first option is to take a virtual field trip. And I know that's not the exact same as getting up and going and being out, but it is a great way to give your students some of that cultural experience. So you might do like a virtual tour of a museum. You might create your own virtual field trip for your students depending on whatever unit you're in. And there are a ton of art galleries who have made their exhibits available to see online. That would be a great place to start as well. If you're looking for info on how to create your own virtual field trip, make sure you check out my playlist here. It's got everything you need to get started with virtual field trips, including which tools you could use and which ones I recommend, and then a step-by-step walkthrough for creating your own. Another option is to use whatever you have available. So you might be saying, okay, well, we don't really have a restaurant that would be a good fit, and there's no museums in my town, and there's not really a whole lot of Spanish speakers in my area. What then? Design a unit around what you do have available. So think about an animal unit before you take them to the zoo, a nature unit, and then a walk in the park, or hiking in a state park after your nature unit. Even learning about farm animals and agricultural techniques before heading out to a farm.
What century is this?
To compare and contrast growing and farming techniques in different areas of the world could be applicable, right? Just depends on what you have available and how you want to make that work for your classes. You could also plan a field trip to another school in your district. Have your students create stories and then create picture books and illustrate them, and then take them to the elementary school and have a reading day with a buddy class. Do you have a nursing home or elderly care facility? I bet they would love to see some friendly faces. So you could do something similar where they do a project and they come in and they show off their project. Or it might be a great option to do like an interview activity, speak with the people who are living there, and then after they interview them, they can use that information that they've gotten for Spanish class. Like if you're doing an imperfect unit or you're talking about what things were like when they were younger, have them interview them and then write about it or do a comparison with their own lives. If you have a Spanish club and you're looking for event ideas for them, pretty much any of those would be a great option for your Spanish club as well. They might even be able to travel a little bit further, right? If you have some things that are further away from you, sometimes it's easier to take a smaller group of students. And if you want even more ideas for your Spanish club, you can check out my video here with 20 ideas of activities for your Spanish club. What other field trips have you done with your Spanish classes? Comment below and let me know. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.